Hi, friend. Niclas here. Welcome to another episode of the Your Audio Solutions podcast, where it's my job to find the tools and methods from the people that inspire you so you can apply their knowledge to your own life and work. On the show today, we have one of the most recorded bass players in the history of music, Nathan East. If you don't know Nathan, he has performed, co-written songs with, and recorded for artists such as Eric Clapton, Daft Punk, George Harrison, Michael Jackson, Toto, Phil Collins, and many, many others. It was a real pleasure talking to Nathan, and it was really cool delving deeper into how he became such a successful session musician. His cramp inducing bass line from Footloose. If you haven't heard that, check that song out. And if you're a bass player, play it. It's a great bass line. Also talked about how success leaves clues, meditation, magic, and much, much more. Now, if you want exclusive access to interviews like these and be able to ask up-and-coming guests questions, feel free to join the Audio Tribe. There's a link to it in the description below. Just enter your name and email address and you are on the Audio Tribe email list. It's completely free. As I said, just enter your name and email address and you are in. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening to this interview on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please leave a rating and a comment. It really helps grow the channel so I can make better content for you, the listener and watcher. There are a lot of useful tips from Nathan that you can apply to your own career as a musician. So please enjoy this interview with Nathan East. Done some interviews in the past, and I used another program, and the interview was finished, and then it didn't record anything.
Whoops.
Yeah,
Oh no, that's terrible.
it is terrible. And then you have to
Whoops.
go back and redo it.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's not.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's not the best. But Nathan, it's a big pleasure having you here. We're really looking forward to it.
Cheers. No, thanks for
How's lockdown been for you? You still been busy, I assume.
you know what? September was the busiest month
Wow.
yet ever. And so many people are kind of sitting at home trying to come up with projects, and so like I just got invited to do a million things last month, including a couple of actually birthday celebrations that were out of town where they sent a private jet. It
Oh
was
yeah,
crazy.
nice.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things. Oops, is that me?
Couldn't hear
Sorry
anything.
about that.
I couldn't hear it actually, so it's good.
Oh, you couldn't hear it? Okay, yeah.
No.
I have and the technology is so crazy. I had to have my the internet guys out because I needed a new modem. So with all this Zoom and stuff, the modems and all the stuff has to be kind of updated.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's never a shortage of good fun stuff to do, and I feel grateful for that. Just after 40 years of relationships and connections and dealings, a lot of stuff kind of flows through now, which is fun.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, yeah, it's awesome to hear that you are still busy.
Yeah.
I mean, deservedly so. You've been in the industry for a long time, so.
Yeah, and as it shut down, I mean, all the touring went away. We were supposed to be in Europe with Eric Clapton, and
Right.
I had scheduled a couple of weeks in Russia with this Russian orchestra
Awesome.
to be featured over there, and then so like everything just went away. So the touring went away, but fortunately, I mean, I have a recording studio, and people send me tracks, and so
Yeah.
been able to keep busy with that. Plus, I have a couple of college kids. I have twins that are 20 years old, and they're in college now. So they immediately came home, and that was a good opportunity for the family to stay together.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's been one of the good things with the COVID situation is you know, the more time you can spend with your family, basically.
Right,
Uh,
right.
it's been pretty good. For me, and my girlfriend spend way more time together, but it's been awesome.
Nice.
So it's
Yeah.
been really good, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's even in the darkest times, that silver lining. If you can try to find it, it's a good thing because I really, have been working so much that this is a time that I would have never gotten with my family, for instance, and it's been priceless.
Exactly, man. I'm glad. Um,
Yeah.
but as I was doing my research, and I just realized this today, which was funny in a way. But the track or the album, I guess, "Footloose" uh, by Kenny Loggins, right? You played on that song,
Yes.
and I didn't know that until today. And the reason
Oh,
that's funny is because I used to be in a function band, playing weddings, parties, whatever, and we used to
right.
play "Footloose," that track, and
Oh, that's
that
funny.
and that track always made me cramp up. I was always like in the end of the first set, a bit tired, because it's quite a
Right.
busy part, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of crafted to just be a part. I mean, we worked on that song. We rehearsed it every chance we got. So like we had 3-4 months of rehearsal before even recording the song.
Mm.
So everything just was getting honed, and every day I'd add another note,
Right, right,
to the part.
right.
And so there's value in being able to try a song out on the road before you record it.
Mm,
And
definitely.
so that's kind of what happened. So sorry for the cramps.
Yeah, that's all right.
I had the benefit of kind of like every day just working on it until it got, to where it ended up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a great bass line, man. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
so you wrote the bass line then, I assume, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just I mean, every time we're up to bat in the recording studio, our mission is to write a great line or something memorable or something that fits the song primarily, and so ever since Anthony Jackson wrote the bass line to for the Love of Money
Mm.
back in the day, I always that was always one of the high marks or the standards where you shoot for something that's going to be memorable.
Right, right, right. I mean, yeah, it definitely became memorable, especially for me. But
But yeah, it's fun.
what actually inspired you to start playing the bass?
Yeah, the bass was it was one of those things. My ear just went to the bass every time I listened to music, and back in the day, you had Motown, so there's James Jamerson with all these great lines, and
Mm.
even Paul McCartney. I just my ear would go to this really melodic, um, creative bass style, and Tower of Power with Rocco, who we just lost,
Mm.
Earth, Wind and Fire, and then I was in my brothers were playing in church, and I was kind of tagging along with them. One played guitar, one was singing, and on the altar there was a I'll never forget, it was a Gibson EB bass, red, just sitting on a stand there, and nobody was playing it. And I said, "Whose is this?" Nobody seemed to know whose it was, and so I just picked it up, and as soon as I picked it up, it was like, wait a minute, this is magic, and
Right.
at 14 years old, that was like that started the trajectory of my life, just that one moment of picking up this four-stringed instrument, and it was fantastic.
Awesome, man. I mean, when I started playing bass, it was kind of a funny story. Just to tell you it, very shortly, but it was a school. There was like this after school program, and everyone wanted to play guitar, including me. And then I didn't get it. And then there was the drums, and I didn't get the drums either because I thought the bass would be this upright bass, and that sort of was lame. But then I got the bass anyway, and then the guy came out with this electric bass, and I was like, wow, I didn't know the bass was actually looking like this, like an electric guitar.
Wow.
And that set
Yeah.
me off on the bass world, I guess.
Yeah, the stories are fun to hear, like the what are the origins of people's, because some people just seemed, and of course there were just a lot of bands when I was coming up, like Cool and the Gang and
Oh yeah, yeah,
War, Tower of Power, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, Blood, Sweat and Tears, like a million bands, Cream, um, Jimi Hendrix Experience. So there were a lot of, like, if you were in a band, there was just lots of material to choose from to play, and then you had to learn, you know, Berdine White's bass part on whatever, and or
mm,
you know, Jack Bruce or whoever, Sunshine of Your Love, So
exactly.
I was excited to kind of just learn those, and then there were bands, so it made you want to be in a band, and so this is how I think a lot of people get started. You just look up and say, hey, that's what I want to do.
Exactly. I mean, do you remember that moment when you heard, maybe it was on the radio or a CD or LP back then, where it just, caught your attention and you were like, damn, what's this thing?
Yeah, like there was a song called Reverend Lee by Roberta Flack that
Right.
Chuck Rainey played on. Bass line was just, it was like just incredible. And he also played on Aretha Franklin, Till You Come Back to Me.
Mm.
Those two songs alone, the bass parts are like, a clinic.
Right, right.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
you add that to then the Temptations coming out, and just again, the Motown stuff that James Jamerson was doing was on a whole nother level.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. But Nathan, something that's always been fascinating with you is obviously, I mean, it's well known that you played on, I don't know the exact number, but 2,000 records plus, I guess. So my question is, how did you set yourself up for that success? That allowed you to keep getting hired, record after record. What was your approach walking into the studio?
Well, from the first time I ever recorded anything, you you realize what a privilege it is to be in a studio, having your sound reproduced at the kind of the highest quality, and for me, it's just that every time that red light goes on, you got to leave something that's memorable, that's really great, and so that's kind of was my mission, is just to try to go in there and do what others before me have done in such great fashion, and so um, it it was a very high bar that people like James Jamerson
Right.
set, you know, and so for me, I thought, well, if I'm in this environment of where they're going to actually record, and what I play is going to be around forever,
Mm.
it might as well be as good as it can be. So that's kind of my mentality and work ethic when I go in, is just, okay, this has to be great, and there's a lot of people that know how to do this better, and there's a lot of people that are wanting to do it and willing to do it. So um,
Exactly.
you only get that chance, and so go in there and crush it as if you can.
But what does great mean to you then? Because I assume that not every bass part will be memorable, as in, oh, look what that cool thing he did. Sometimes you gotta, also being a bass player, you have to lay back. So what does that
Yeah,
thing mean to you?
yeah. Well, greatness means, to me, it's whether it's one note. And I try to get this message across to my students. I have this online bass school over at
Yeah, yeah.
ArtistWorks, and I try to emphasize that, like, it's the one note that people um, that you have to penetrate people's hearts with. Like when Eric Clapton plays, you can tell that one note, that's Eric Clapton. BB King would hit that one vibrato, and you could tell right off the bat that was BB King. So that wasn't a flurry of notes. That was one note, and it gets to you. And that's where music for me is all about, is like, getting through people's skin,
Hmm.
and opening up their hearts. So whether it's like a memorable bass line, or just laying that one note down with the drummer, I try to keep it, um, keep the integrity of whether it's one or 50 notes.
Right,
Try
right,
to
right.
keep it all high.
Makes sense.
And that's where I feel like the bass has been one of those instruments, because like in the clubs, see the bass solo, and then everybody, would leave and go get a beer, because then it's kind of like we're not used to soloing. So when we do solo, it's kind of like fiddling around and trying to figure out what's going on, and so a lot of times, it's kind of like, oh wait, out of 1,000 notes, I can use 100 of them, and the rest of them are kind of they're okay, but it's just kind of like filler, So as bass players, I always felt we have a responsibility to kind of keep the standards high, keep the game up, So when you do play, it's something, because otherwise, that kind of image of bass plays the roots and fifths, see you later,
Yeah.
But yeah, and all these things there's time, tone, taste, touch, technique, the 5 T's, and so all of those, to this day, every time I sit down to play, whether it's live or I'm constantly saying, is this worth me being here?
Right. So when you get a song, like you told us, you've been recording at home a lot. So when someone sends you a song and say, "Hey Nathan, I'd love you to play bass on this track. Here's the demo with drums and vocals, guitars," for example, what do you listen for first before you starts to play?
The first thing I listen to is, and if somebody sends me a track, I just play it at least a few times over and over, just to get a feel for the big picture. When they say look down from 30,000 feet, and then so I just listen to the whole thing to figure out what my role is first, and what the song is kind of trying to say. So, and then at that point, I just try to kind of not mess it up, insert myself into because sometimes people have sent songs with bass lines or synth bass parts that, I thought, well, what do you need me to do? This is really good,
Right.
But at the same time, people want, the human and the slides and the feel, and those things that a lot of times you just can't emulate on a synthesized bass.
Makes sense. But do you also, is it strictly, like, let's say there are drums, do you strictly think about also what the drums are playing? So you always try to match that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the feel is already established. And so primarily it's just like, how am I going to insert myself into this big picture and do it in a way that makes the picture better.
Right.
You just let my cat out of here while
I can hear a cat, I thought.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Stand by. There you go, Tiger. Go. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that.
No worries, man.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, so what did about the drums and stuff, if that's, the feel, if that's the strictly thing you're focusing on. Not strictly, but yeah, that's part of what you're focusing on, I guess, when laying down the bass track.
Pretty much, I like to focus on the big picture too, and just make sure that when I put a part down and if I play it back, that everything is just right, It's the correct feel. And
right.
Those are things that just you just rely on your instincts to kind of let you know if it feels good or not. You sort of not being produced in real time, so just kind of produce myself on those.
Right. But I'd love to go back to the, being a session player, when you started out, because, you said you wanted to make your mark, so to speak. But was there anything else you tried to do that would, get you hired for the next session? Like, did you try to always get someone's number? Was it always like, hey, what are you working on next? What was your approach to that thing? Because I guess it was more than just playing, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, all the other parts about your work ethic, bringing a good attitude in, and just being kind of humbled by the invitation, and all those things are kind of just a given that are part of the show, and then yeah, I mean, usually if you've not worked with somebody, there's probably exchange contact information, but the best thing you do is leave something that when you walk out that door leaves the person wanting more. And so I I've never been one of those guys that kind of called asking for gigs or
Right.
kind of bugged people. Even when I got here, just kind of sat patiently and looked at the phone, waiting for it to ring for a couple months.
Right. And how do you handle those moments where it might not ring, like you said, for a few months?
Yeah, that was sort of the end of 1979, and then from 1980, it pretty much I found myself working every day. It was fantastic because sometimes you just catch the timing just right, and there's a little void, I guess. When the guy before you that's doing all the work decides he wants to do something else or leaves town or something, there's a nice, and so I walked into a nice little opening there,
Right.
in Los Angeles, and for a bass, and
Right.
I literally found myself working every single day.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, see, basically,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
it
awesome.
got momentum that never stopped.
Yeah, and again, I realized that it's a finite thing that it can't go on forever. So that's even more inspiration to try to make what you play. So here 40 years later, I'm still trying to play something that'll get me the call back.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes
Because there's a
sense.
lot of great players out there.
I mean, because I interviewed also Lee Sklar, and when I was looking around the internet, have you guys almost like traded jobs sometimes? Like sometimes
Yeah,
you play with some of his acts, and I don't know if he maybe got some of yours.
yeah. We both have been members of Toto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Both been members of Phil Collins' band. And it's kind of flip flops too, because then you get busy. So, like, I guess that's good because if one can't make it, the other knows the book just as equally as well. So
Exactly.
it's been fun too, and Lee's phenomenal bass player and wonderful guy. Dear friend, and I think the world of his playing and him as a human being. And I think your humanity somehow kind of slips into your playing as well. And I think that's why somebody like Lee is always working, because
Right.
people love the guy. His look is fantastic, he's
Yeah.
funny and he's great to be around. I mean, really, really a fun guy to be around. And, from speaking to him, he's hysterical.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, because I was speaking to him about the same sort of thing, like what he did, to keep that momentum going, and I assume you also always came in prepared, right? There was never, I mean, maybe depending on the session itself, but I assume you knew what you were going to do before you got in, right?
Yeah, not always, but you walk into a situation that your antennas have to be up and you have to be ready for anything. So you're kind of in there. I always look at it as like we're just in there to serve a big picture. So we're just a small part of a big puzzle.
Right.
And when we go in there, we have to be sort of our open architecture in our thinking.
But did you ever have as a bass player the maybe in the beginning like the urge to show people what you can do, or it was always about the song for you?
No, you have a little bit of both. You wanna let people know. I mean, bass players like Jocko came out. Everybody wanted to be Jocko, and
Right.
so yeah, there's a lot of that, especially in your younger days where you just have this kind of energy and kind of there's no governor on on what you do. So yeah, everybody wants to be that guy, but for me, experience just teaches you that literally it's one note at a time. It's like this has to be perfect for this moment in time, and for me, music is. Oops, sorry about it. I got another call. I'll just
No worries.
thanks. Yeah. So for me, music ends up being something that um, you're always analyzing the moment that's before you. You know,
Hmm.
there's not, and a lot of people practice and prepare before they go in to perform a certain piece or whatever. But there's nothing that prepares you for what's going to be happening at that moment in real time. Especially if they play something different, it's kind of like driving. Um, you don't know who's going to turn in front of you every day.
Right.
And so it becomes um, every day becomes a time when you have to be in the moment while you're driving to stay
Hmm.
out of an accident,
Exactly.
to
That's
get to where you're going to go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, is that also because I've heard you also do a lot of meditation and practice meditation. Do you think that has helped you? Maybe not exactly in when you're recording, maybe, but to be able to stay calm when everything else is busy around you.
I think it does help. It's kind of like gets your brain clear, and then it's kind of like, okay, with a clear mind, I'm better able to access everything that comes in terms of information.
Hmm.
Um, then if my mind is all over the place and I'm thinking about, okay, well, I got to do this, and then I just got to do this. I got to take this person, and it's so for me the meditation is kind of like starts the day with a blank slate where I can just say, okay, now uh, I'm clear, and let me accept the challenges of the day.
Right. And how long have you done meditation? When did you start?
George Harrison actually in the late '80s started telling me about meditation, and he actually
Right.
taught me and took me to the place where he was, and sorted me out with a mantra, and sort of got me going. So
What kind of
um,
meditation is that? Is that the trance? What's it called?
that was the Transcendental
Yeah,
Meditation.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so I remember him taking me to the center out there, and there was one in Oxford when
Right.
I kind of first got into it on a serious level, and and then there's no real kind of one way, even if you just sit there and take deep breaths and concentrate on your breathing, that's kind of a form of meditation. And but it was fun, because having somebody that was so connected with that skill
Hmm.
kind of take me under his wing and get me going in meditation. It's been great. He used to come when he'd come to the house, when he'd come to LA, he'd come to the house and meditate, and it was just pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's not bad having him teaching you that and playing music with him.
Exactly.
Oh, he was such a terrific songwriter, man. I mean, I keep going back to the album "All Things Must Pass."
Yeah,
Uh,
it's fantastic.
Fantastic record, man. I mean, the songwriting is just kick ass.
Yeah, when we did his last tour in Japan, um, you know, Eric kind of said, "Hey, my band is already together. If you want to use the band, and we'll go over there together." And so we did his last tour, and it was just fun to get inside of 35 songs of his,
Mm,
and really just I developed an appreciation even more having to learn all those parts and songs that what a great writer he was.
exactly. Really, really good. Uh, a movie, did you play on a record with him, or was it mostly touring?
At that point, it was mostly touring.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
And when did he pass again? That was 2000 or something, maybe. What was it?
that was. I'd have to look up the exact, but
It's been a while.
it's been a while now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad.
Oh, it was a heartbreak,
Yeah, I can imagine.
totally heartbreaking.
I mean, I didn't remember back then at all. I was too young to even know who he was. But I can imagine for you and many, many, many others, it was awful. Really
Yeah, I
awful.
mean, Olivia, his wife, is dear friend Danny, his son. So we keep in touch, but
Right.
I have so many fond memories of visiting with them at the house in
Yeah,
Henley
yeah.
on Thames, and just they're really really wonderful people, and that's the thing that I appreciate most about music, that the relationships that you get from it.
Exactly, man. Totally. Was there anything George sort of maybe not taught you, but something that was, a skill you can use in your own songwriting?
Oh yeah, I mean he was. It's funny because he would play the diminished chord. He called it the naughty chord. It was like he didn't know what the name of it was, but he knew it was naughty. So
Right.
I just I enjoyed the way he kind of looked at music um, in a way where it wasn't academic, but it was just more coming from the heart and the way it makes you feel. So just and I learned just he's really about simplicity and making, again, every chord and every melody should mean something.
Exactly. And yeah, you can tell it does when you listen to his
Yeah,
music. Yeah.
yeah. His music, affected me. At a very early age, I was a fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here, man. But going back to the meditation part, is that something you also still do every day, or was it more intense
Yes,
back then? Every day?
yes. Still, especially nowadays when it's just craziness.
Mm.
I mean, when you go to bed at night, especially here in the States now, we're
Right.
going through, I think, one of the craziest times we've ever been through, and it's unsettling.
It
It's
is.
it's uh, it's maddening. We have a we have a completely serious pandemic
Hmm.
that's global, and the way we're approaching it in this in this country is, for me, a complete disaster. And
Yeah, it is.
it's as if you know it's as if two 747s packed with people crash per day. And
Wow.
that's been
Yeah.
happening for months. I mean, why would you ever fly? Who would fly that airline? And why would the
Mm.
pilots still be in charge?
Right. That's a really, really good way of putting it.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
can't quite get my head around the fact that, I mean, usually you find something. Okay, this is leaking. Let's plug the leak. Let's do
Mhm.
something to. But still, months and months after, okay, today is October 5th, October 6th. Two more 747s just
Right.
plowed into the ground and crashed.
Right.
Boom. A
Yeah.
thousand people are gone,
Yeah.
dead. It's incredible to me. So, the meditation sort of keeps me from going absolutely mad.
Mm. How long do you do it for then? Is it 30 minutes in the morning or
Yeah,
an
I
hour?
wake up 20, 30 minutes first thing,
Do you
just
have something you listen to, like a guided thing, or is just all
I
internal?
used to have these kind of sounds where it's a stream, or you hear kind of birds chirping in the background,
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
drone, and that's kind of cool too. But now to the point where I can just sit in silence and then just kind of try to go as deep as possible.
Nice.
It's really a great feeling because you kind of shut your body down,
Hmm.
and even your breathing. You go into kind of a suspended animation, where you're taking fewer breaths, and it almost feels like you're preserving your body. Um,
Exactly.
and then everything, a lot of times things become almost clearer because you're in a silent space, so you can hear God's whispers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Pretty cool.
I've done it myself for many years, like on and off.
Yeah.
But recently I started doing it again in the morning, every
Right.
day. And it has a big impact. It might be subtle. It might not be straight away, oh, now something might not happen straight away, but I find
Yeah.
there's certain situations where having done the practice every day, it helps.
Right.
Sometimes hard to put into words exactly what it does, but
Well, it's like using your muscles too. Like,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
exactly,
just go and do one day and lift some weights, and then, okay, now I'm okay. So if you do it
exactly.
every day or every other day, the regular nature of it is what builds you. So
Hmm.
the regular nature of meditating, the habit of that kind of makes you kind of better at it.
Exactly.
And apparently, you know, if you can do it in the morning, and then if you can do it at night before you retire,
Hmm.
it's supposed to have, keep you in balance.
Right. Yeah, I need to get to that level as well. The evening shift.
Yeah, the evening shift. Yeah,
Do you do it in the
it's
evening
hard.
too?
Yeah, I try to do it in the evening too, and it's hard. You get busy, and most of the time,
Yeah, yeah.
my days are so packed that by the time the evening comes, I just fall asleep
Hmm.
because I'm so exhausted from a full day.
Exactly. I get that, man.
But it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Something else I was really interesting. I heard you speak about in another interview was the notion that success leaves clues, right? And having a mentorship and all that. So, who were your mentors? Starting out, or maybe you have a mentor now, even.
Yeah, I feel like my first band teacher's name is Dennis Foster at my high school.
Hmm.
Um, he was the best teacher, and he had like, I don't know if it was just that time period, but every one of the players that he had in his, like the stage band or marching band or jazz ensemble, um, everyone was kind of a star. Everybody won awards, like statewide awards, and they won festivals,
Right.
and he was just one of those teachers that he kind of attributes it to, he had good students, but I think he was one of the best teachers and was kind of a first sort of mentor of mine,
Right.
and then the previous bass player to this stage band, Gunnar Biggs, he was a mentor. He gave me an upright bass, and he gave me a jazz bass, and kind of saw some potential and put some real instruments into my hands, and to this day, I feel in debt to him. Um, and then I had some great teachers at University of California, San Diego,
Mhm.
um, where to this day we're still in touch, and they were just so good at kind of pointing me in the right direction, and being role models, and also just you know good guidance whenever I needed it.
So, what were some of the questions you would go to them with?
Well, I know Bert Turetsky, who's a contrabass instructor. Um, I started a master's program at UCSD, and he kind of pulled me aside. He says, "I think you should just go to LA, make some money, make us proud." And so he
Right.
he kind of he sort of said, "Come on, school, you don't want to be a professional student all your life." And it was great advice, because I kind of took him up on it. I went to LA and started working, and then it was like I said, "Oh man, thanks for the thanks for the guidance," because
Yeah.
where's that point where you stop the study and then you just actually jump and fly the coop and go, so that was good. And you know even people like Quincy Jones, when you work with him, and I'm playing these songs, and he'll come over and he'll just whisper one little thing. He says, "Before that next bar, just put the you know put this note in to lead you into it." And I'm going, man, why didn't I think of that? So
Right.
people like that are just, genius in arranging and putting music together and producing. I just learn a lot. And you learn a lot just by observation.
Hmm.
Um, uh, watch how these people deal with a room of great musicians, and watch their production styles. And I've worked with so many great producers, lots with different styles, uh, Tommy LaPuma, Arif Martin, and David Foster,
Hmm.
Quincy, Babyface, all have a different sort of approach to production. And so, you could take little bits and pieces from each one,
Yeah.
and it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, especially having those sort of mentors that you've had, uh, that's not bad as far
Yeah,
as
no,
mentors
it's
goes.
yeah. As far as and a guy like Quincy will sit down even after the session. We've been in the studio sometimes at night, and then we'll sit down and talk till 3 in the morning, like for hours and hours, just like imparting all this incredible wisdom and information,
Yeah.
and he's seen it all. He's been through so much. So those are the kind of moments when I say, living in the moment, and halfway through, I'm going, "Are you sure? You okay? 3 in the morning. Don't you have somewhere to be?
Yeah, yeah.
But he's been so generous with his wisdom and knowledge.
That's great, man. I saw his documentary on Netflix maybe last year, whenever it came out.
Yeah,
Did you see it?
yeah. Quincy, yep. I
That was,
cried.
yeah, yeah. I mean, such an incredible,
It was incredible.
incredible, especially his relationship with Ray Charles.
Yeah,
That was very, very
yeah,
touching,
yeah.
to be honest.
They were like brothers.
Yeah. But what were some of the things you like that Quincy taught you about music? Is there anything that sticks out in terms of bass playing, I would say, or just being a musician?
Well, he's kind of like one of those guys that just when you're in the room with him, everybody's game goes up.
Right.
Just like by nature of we're in the room with Quincy. So, you'd be on a Quincy session, you look around and there's Jeff Porcaro or Ndugu, there's David Foster, David Page over there, Steve Porcaro, Lukather, like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the Greg Fillinganes, all the A players, where there's nobody better, John Robinson, you just like the A team. So every single person in the room, their game would go up, then your game goes up, So it's like you're playing, tennis with Rafa Nadal or something like
Right.
that. If you're on the court with him, you're automatically going to have a better game,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Makes
So
sense.
so yeah, and music is kind of like it's part mental, and then it's part coming from the heart, and it's part life experiences. So you know in a room with a guy like Quincy who's had that life experience,
Hmm.
it's really it takes you to another level.
Right. I can imagine, man. I mean, the life experience in music is something that's really important. I mean,
Yeah.
my experience is not that great or long, whatever you want to call it. But people, players like you and yeah, let's say Quincy. How does that impact your playing when you have that experience? Does it make you play less, or is it just you way more selective of when and where to play?
Well, with a guy like Quincy, and another thing that he says everything is about choices. So when you're in there, you have a lot of choices to make, and so it's up to you to basically make the right choices.
Mm.
And when you listen to his music, you're hearing a room full of people making choices. If you ever listen to the guitar part on Human Nature, that's Steve Lukather. It's kind of like it's like a chiseled, beautifully crafted part,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to hear. And I told Luke, I said, if you never did another song, that part alone would be, it's like a master class on. And so all that is him from his heart, using everything that he has to make that song as great as it can be, and he's using his instincts
Hmm.
and choices, and that's why he's the guy that ends up being in the room to play on that.
Right.
And those are things that um, is you could be in the classroom all day long, but you can't really teach all those things. Again, it's like the same choices you have when you're out driving, and people are out there going crazy. Sometimes you're going to have to get on the gas and go fast through that intersection, or you can't go through it at all. And
Exactly.
that's kind of to me how life is in general. Just every day is a new day, it's a new experience, a new chance.
Hmm.
Sometimes we make it, sometimes we don't, you know,
Hmm.
and we just keep getting back up and going.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said, man. But if someone was asking you, what in terms of like success leaves clues, what would you say your clues would be that you have left? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, you want to try to like for me, it's fun because you know like through my online teaching, I get to
Mm.
kind of do a one-on-one where people say, okay, I'm going to play like this, and I get to actually say, oh wait, your fingers are in the wrong position. You want to be perpendicular. This is what you want to practice. So to me, those are kind of the obvious clues. But then again, you look at people, and you sort of see hey, what did that guy do
Hmm.
on his way up? And just simple things like not cussing somebody out,
Right, right, right.
even if you feel like it. I mean, there's so many times when somebody did something where I could have really like gone off and never want to see you again and all this kind of stuff, but that wouldn't have served me
Hmm.
because it always is kind of cyclic, and then it could be a decade later where it comes back around,
Hmm.
where we're working together again, or so hold your temper, hold your tongue, and just the rest is fairly easy. It's fairly easy in this business. Everybody likes if you're respectful and nice and kind, and then your gear works good, and
Hmm.
and then even what you play is cool. I mean, it's all part of that experience, and
Right.
I think not enough people kind of focus on that as much as you know G7 in my room and playing something that's going to blow everybody's mind when I get there. I just want to be. I'm so happy to be in the game. I just want to be down on the field.
Right.
And then you're in the. If you make it to the Super Bowl, it's a great thing.
Yeah. And that's very well said. Uh, you know.
Yeah, just
Uh,
kind of it's part of a. It's just part of a big. We're part of a big fabric of this big industry, and there's no kind of one route or way. Otherwise everybody would be doing that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's also the tricky part as well because, like you just said, someone can have a path that would not work for you maybe at all. Um,
Exactly.
and that is a bit tricky, you know.
Yeah, and I can't be somebody else. I can
Yeah.
only try to be the best version of me
Hmm.
as possible. And you take an example like a Jocko, where he just influenced every bass player, and everybody was trying to be Jocko. And I remember reading a Marcus Miller article where he said like he did everything. He pulled frets out of his bass, and
Right.
he was being it. And then he kind of woke up one day and said, "Wait a second, there's only one Jocko. I got to be Marcus Miller." And I
Exactly.
I thought that was a great revelation because we all heard Jocko and just wanted to do that.
Hmm.
But there's only one guy, and he was the greatest at that.
Exactly. But do you think that when you do start out, that you almost maybe not have to, but that you usually start out copying someone else, and then it takes time to realize, like what Marcus just said, like, oh, I have to be me, right? That doesn't
Oh yeah,
happen straight away, I guess. Did
yeah. I mean, we all have our heroes, and then so we
mm,
we kind of learn everything they play,
yeah,
and so um, that becomes a good sort of role model for us, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But
no,
but then you eventually go into your own space, and
hmm,
which is good. Um, People like Herbie Hancock, I learned a lot from him as well because you know he he's so unique in what he does, and when he plays, it's just there's only one guy that can play like that. And
mm,
so again, carefully listen to what they play, to what they say, and pick up on as much as possible.
exactly. I mean, it goes back to what you said in the beginning about you can listen to BB King, for example, and just by one note, it's him.
Yeah.
How do you think that happens in a player? Is it do they have to go through a struggle like I mean in the case of BB King we know he did like all those guys. Do you think that has to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, BB King playing, is a reflection of his life and what he was going through and the blues what he had to do,
Hmm.
growing up. So I think, you know, like when he plays that note, there's probably just a little more pressure and a little more energy coming into that note because of what he's had to live.
Hmm.
And so, and it becomes a very natural. It amazes me though. You take a guitar, an instrument like that, and the same six strings, but But Carlos Santana sounds like Carlos Santana. Satriani sounds like Satriani. Eric sounds like Eric. It's amazing how that works.
It
Pat
is.
Metheny sounds like Pat Metheny. Like when he
Yeah.
was 17 years old, he was Pat Metheny.
Yeah.
Wes Montgomery, George Benson. I mean, it's amazing. And it's like it's the same six strings everybody has to work with.
Exactly. Yeah,
I love,
that is incredible.
yeah, I love it. And like Quincy says, he says we all get 12 notes. For hundreds of years, it's 12, the same 12 notes. That Stravinsky, Mozart. You and I, we get to work with. So
Exactly. Yeah, it is incredible. I mean, do you have like did you have any struggles, coming up in the industry or when growing up that had an impact on how you play?
I mean, I think we all have struggles. At various times where it depends on our environment, our circumstance, but I've had some very good fortune. At 16 years old, I was playing with Barry White. At the Madison Square Garden and at the Apollo Theater. And so those are experiences that let me know at a very early age that wow, this is kind of what I want. This is what I want to do. And so, obviously, you go down that road and it's different for everybody. But the thing I maintain is that I just try to learn as much from everybody that I run into as possible.
Right, right.
And it could be the guy. I mean, it could be anywhere from the CEO of the company to the guy that's helping me with my bags. I can learn something from everybody.
Yeah, that's a very important mindset to have, to be honest. I'm
Yeah.
trying to implement the same thing, not to be too, cocky, I guess you can call it, whatever. Or
Yeah.
that you know it all, I guess. That's the right word.
Right. There's so much to learn. There's always so much to learn, and when you think about it, boggles the mind that with 7-8 billion people on the world in the world now, we're like everybody knows something and knows something different. It's incredible, And
It is.
to be honest, when this whole worldwide pandemic lockdown happened, I really thought to myself, optimistically, I said, "Oh, this is a great opportunity. Like the entire planet's going to reboot. Like everybody's on the same level. If you're a billionaire and you own 10 private jets, you can't fly anywhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
And if and regardless of what country you were in, like we were all in the same exact boat, and it on a human level, it kind of brought us all to ground zero, to square one." And I thought this is a perfect opportunity for leaders and kind of the world to kind of say, okay, hey, we could reboot. Nobody's gonna do you because we're all in the same boat.
Exactly.
And I don't know what happened. It's
Yeah.
like we're months. We're at the end of this crazy year, and I don't see like. Now when I go for a drive, I look up and the people are cutting you off, and it's as crazy as ever. It's just mad.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's sort of a missed opportunity to that we had.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, there's something I like to talk to you about is because you are very entrepreneurial. I mean, not only have you sustained a career for so long, but like you also have your the bass lessons online. So you're always moving with the times. That's my perception, anyway. Is that something you have been like conscious about? Is that something you've always been interested in? Like always finding opportunities, always looking how to sustain yourself, even though times are changing, like CDs gone, etc.
Right. Yeah. No. I think every musician, every artist, every person that's not doing a regular going to 9 to 5 to report some work, like clocking in and out. Every musician is an entrepreneur, and by that I mean that like you're always figuring out what's happening in between this gig and the next one, and okay, now I know that it's not a regular scenario, so I mean, this year people have had to survive. You just cut the touring right off. I mean, that was it. Everything, no gigs.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to learn how to survive. And thankfully, I've been through the lessons online. Then I have my own studio, so I can kind of do individual overdubs for people.
Right.
Um, I worked with 64 Audio, and we came up with the in-ears that I
Oh
use,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so that's become something that I've enjoyed. Another project, and so again, you just put all these things together to help. In our world where we really don't have anybody following us around with a pension plan,
Mm-hmm.
where we try to keep everything floating. So sometimes we put a lot of boats in the water, and when one's not happening, something else is happening. That's why even the genres of music that I played, I made a conscious effort not to just be the funk guy
Right, right, right.
or just the jazz guy or the pop guy. So I kind of involved myself in all genres, rock and roll, jazz, uh, country, whatever, because I want to learn about everything too.
Hmm.
So um, I think it's just the nature of what we do as artists, as musicians, that there's no like we are our own bosses. Um, there's no real security in what we do. To this day, I kind of that's why I try to play every note. I hope I get the call back.
Right, 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 right.
And so yeah, and I think it's wise as musicians to kind of reach outside of your
Hmm.
comfort zone and figure. Some people do very well investing.
Hmm.
You know, and I think there's opportunities out there outside of what we do,
Right.
what we're trained to do, and what we have comfort levels doing. Things that could kind of help keep us floating.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good advice, actually. To think outside the box and do stuff that might be uncomfortable. I mean, is that something you always have done, or is that of late when more and more has changed in the music industry?
I've always kind of um, approached it like that because say 16 years old. I mean, at a very early age, I kind of knew that this was what I wanted to do, but I knew that it's not, nothing's guaranteed, and
Right.
so you're always kind of trying to hedge your bets and just keep you. As my father was funny because he used to always, okay, I hope you have something to fall back on. That was
Hmm.
kind of his mentality,
Hmm.
and so it does make sense that we have to do our gig and do our job well, but I think it's good to have other areas in life that you can try to get good at, and maybe if this well dries up, there's one over here
Hmm.
that'll keep you going.
Exactly, man. I mean, I've done the same thing, to be honest, and I was also affected by the whole, you know, gigs being shut down and all that, and
Right.
but even before there was always multiple stuff. So yeah, it's very important, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but something I want to ask you before we wrap up is, are you also a magician?
Oh yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think ever since I was a kid, I loved magic. But one time, a guy came backstage to one of our gigs, and he took a cigarette and he put it out in his hands, and then it vanished. And I'm going, what was that? So I said, we have to talk. So he came back to my room and started showing me some stuff.
That's
And
cool.
then magicians are there's a place called the Magic Castle here that I joined, and I joined the Magic Circle in London.
Hmm.
And Simon Drake over there, he sponsored me, so he was showing me stuff. And it's just I was interested in it, and magicians actually are like musicians where they jam. Everybody meets at somebody's house, and
Right,
everybody has their magic pad and all their
right,
what
right.
they do, and then you kind of share effects, and so it's pretty cool. And
That's awesome.
so it's and it's one of those things that, regardless of where you go in the world, everybody likes magic, some form of magic. So I just enjoy it as kind of like a little side hobby.
Awesome. I mean, I've heard it's really hard to get into like the Magic Castle, and like you said, you need a sponsor, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
They must have been pretty
I
good
got
then.
spot. Well, they want to know that you have an interest and you're not just kind of, I just want to do one trick, So
Right.
I can remember in the 80s, before I joined, when one of my, I think Simon or somebody said, he said, get in front of a mirror and practice the stuff and see, so that you know what it looks like. So I'll never forget my room at the Mayfair Hotel when when we used to stay there. And I remember just being in front of the mirror, practicing,
Yeah.
cards, coins, rings, ropes, and everything. And it was fun, And I had a little extra time
Awesome.
after the gig, So
But
it was good fun.
yeah, what are your thoughts about David Blaine and his? Have you seen his documentary? Like,
I haven't seen his documentary, but
right.
he's an amazing magician.
Yeah,
I
there is
mean, he's taken
this.
it to other levels.
Yeah, there is this trick he does with Harrison Ford. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's a clip on YouTube. Um, but it's a standard, pick a card, blah blah blah, remember it, and then he asks him to pick up like an orange or whatever that he can cut into, and open it up,
Yeah.
and he does, and
Right.
inside there is the card.
Oh man,
That's they say.
I'm gonna look that up
Yeah,
because
yeah, you have to. It's
he came to one of our we were rehearsing with Babyface
cool.
at one of the rehearsal studios here, and David Blaine came by, and then he had these cards. He was like spinning them between his fingers. I'm going, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah,
And he's
yeah.
really amazing magician.
He really, really is, man. But Nathan, it's been a big pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you taking your time.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure, and I'll um, I'll look that up as soon as we get off. I'm
Yeah, you
gonna look
should just search, I
it's
guess, yeah,
David
David Blaine
Blaine and
and Harrison Ford. Yeah,
Harrison Ford.
yeah,
Fantastic.
you will
So,
you'll be amazed.
well,
Hopefully,
I hope you guys are doing okay in London, and with a little bit of luck, we'll be able to get back over maybe next year, do some playing.
yeah, man. Look forward to it, and yeah, look forward to seeing more music coming out of you and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Nathan, for coming on. It was a real pleasure talking to you, and I hope you, the listener, enjoyed this interview as well. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the interview. If you have any questions or anything like that, just leave that below. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe as well and leave a rating and a comment. It really helps grow the show so we can have more cool guests coming on and just make more awesome stuff for you, the subscriber. Also, again, if you want exclusive access to interviews before the public, uh, check the link out below and just join the audio tribe. Enter your name and email address, and you have joined. It's completely free, of course, and very easy to join. I'd love to see you there. But that's it for this week. I will see you guys next week. So take care.